What's good, everybody? Scuba Dubert here. Excited for this next conversation with Matt Meyer. So Matt is a incredible, multi-talented person. He's worked as a LA-based drummer, voiceover artist, audio engineer. And he's got a great perspective on music and pro audio because not only does he work as an artist and as an engineer, but he's also had a career with Apple for over a decade and now works with Vintage King, which is one of the best pro audio and kind of music outfits out there to be able to get everything you need for a recording studio. And so it's a really fun conversation talking about gear, the value of those collaborations, and also drums and love of music. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. It's fun to kind of shift perspective a little bit towards the other side of the industry, like the MI and pro audio industry that actually makes the gear and provides the tools that we use to make our music. And it's just always great to catch up with someone like Matt who does it all, you know? Before we get into that, though, I want to introduce our title sponsor. It is DistroKid. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of their royalties and earnings. And we've got a great deal for you, 30% off using our portal. It helps support the pod and it helps support your career. Go to distrokid.com/VIP/love-music-more to get started. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music onto Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. And it's a great tool because you're able to send splits to collaborators. You can check out all of your different stats. And you can also create these hyperfollow links so that when you make a new record, people can see it on all the different platforms right built in, included with your membership. So definitely check that out. Go to distrokid.com/VIP/love-music-more to get your 30% off and get started today. Anyway, enjoy this conversation with Matt. Love music more. Love music more. Ooh, love music more. Love music more. Music more. Music more. What's good, everybody? I am Scubert Dubert, and I am joined with Matt Meyer, and we are going to have a great conversation about everything from gear and Vintage King to touring and music streaming platforms and everything. So excited to meet you, Matt, and we're going to have a great conversation. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Scubert. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, totally. So first off, I want to talk about drums. So I love talking to drummers, and I actually just was talking to somebody earlier today about one of the reasons why I like talking about drummers is that you have such a limited toolkit, but also an unlimited toolkit in terms of all the little things that you can change. Like, let's tweak the heads, let's change the kick drum beater, the microphones, all of these things. I'm just so curious about, like, how was your progression as a drummer? Were you always into the little things, or did you get deeper and deeper? Was it like a rabbit hole, or how did your progression on kit and your conceptualization of kit evolve?
Oh man, well, it definitely did not start microscopic. Cool. Like I was very big picture. Really, how it started was it was in middle school, and my band instructor was like, "Hey, we need somebody, we're going to need a drummer in 8th grade. Like, we have nobody that has a kit. Nobody really knows how to play drums. Like, you should get a kit. And if you do, like, great, I'll get you some music and, learn some songs and play in this jazz band." So it was really jazz band, like 8th grade, cool. I was in a small town of like 3,500 people.
Wow, that is
out in Illinois.
Yeah. Right.
So super small. And, the cool thing was that, and it's all credit to my dad, really. He was working and had a Christmas bonus that year. Aww. And we went to the guitar store, went to the music store. It was Gazzardo's. Shout out to Gazzardo's in Rockford, which I don't think they're around anymore, but
cool, I'll look them
up. We went there and he was like, "Hey, I had been playing some drum sets and really I saw like, I think it was like a VH1 rock, Hard Rock Live, like Peter Frampton was playing and he had Sean Pelton from SNL drumming for him. And just hearing that, I was just like so into it. So I wanted to go get the drum set, do everything. And my dad spent his Christmas bonus on it and let me know like, "Hey, I totally want to do this for you." So he opened up that door and it was just a cool little Tama Rockstar kit.
Yes.
And I just started out playing, I set up a stereo. Like I was very bare bones, like just had a stereo that I blared. My family was totally cool for letting me do this and
totally
just played without headphones, just played to Aerosmith on the stereo. So I'd play like Aerosmith or Metallica or Alice Cooper or whatever it was, and just learn by ear. And then, as a kid, you get a piece of gear and you don't know it's not good. So you break a cymbal after a month. And then, sales guys are like, well, you could really go up on this. So it kind of started from there where a couple cymbals broke, a bass drum pedal broke. And it's like, okay, then I got, all the catalogs coming in. And that's kind of where my love of that came in, because I'd sit there and look at like Tama and DW catalogs at night and then be like, oh, okay. I'm gonna get this snare drum. Like, what does Danny Carey from Tool use? Okay, I'm gonna get a 7x14.
That's huge. Yeah, exactly. Like looking at, okay, I love this. Like I love Tool, so it's like, okay, what does that mean? Let's go deeper. Like, know what I like you're like, okay, let's figure out exactly what snare drum he uses. What sticks does he use? Like, how does he hold the sticks? Like, how does he sit? I love all those little things. Yeah.
And just like any musician, you have to start somewhere. So I was in an original band doing my own thing, but we all cop some stuff from people we love, and we have influences and everything. So it was very much the journey of like starting there, and it's great having my original stuff because I wasn't trying to sound like Tool. I just loved the energy and the complication that Danny Carey played with and all the polyrhythms and that stuff. So it let me kind of put in some more interesting things. And then when I went to college, like being around so many great musicians and everything just really upped my musicianship and communication. So that, made me even more intricate with drum set, and not really so much focusing on gear, but focusing on like the musicianship. So that was like always my base was, not like what gear can I get? I needed stuff so I could do whatever I wanted to do and play like Tool songs if I wanted to, but I was very much a, musician first. Like, what do I need to play my drums?
Totally.
And, get into some good sticks that I liked and everything. And then just kind of concentrated on music. And then I think all the gear stuff, as it might tend to do, comes later when, you start having a career. I was working at Apple, so making, halfway decent money and being able to afford more stuff than like a high school kid. But man, I love the journey is the best part. So, I mean, as a musician, like if anybody's listening out there, as far as like wanting to be like a developing drummer or musician or anything, just the big thing is just playing with people and just doing what you can do in the means you can. Like, you don't have to wait till you have thousands of dollars to get something great. Like Josh Freese, he plays with Nine Inch Nails and Sting and all these guys, Foo Fighters right now he's touring with. And dude, he could have sat down in my 8th grade Tama drum set and it probably would have sounded, exactly like what he plays on, just because of how he is as a drummer and how he hits. So the gear is not everything, but it definitely helps. But it's always talent and musicianship first, with that stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, as a recording engineer, producer, like I always think the closest to the source that you can fix, the better. Like
100%.
If you can make that the way that you're hitting the snare drum, that's bigger than the snare drum itself, which is bigger than the microphone, which is bigger than the plugins. It just kind of, the more you can do closer, the less you have to do later, or the more options you have to do later, which can be really fun.
Yeah.
If you're just having to like clean up, it's like, oh, this room sounds terrible. It's like, okay, well, that's going to be hard to get out of the,
Yes. And it keeps the creativity going too, when you don't have to do so much after the fact. Like you said, you have a lot of options if something sounds great in the first place, but it also saves everybody a lot of time. So you can just move on, do everything. You don't have to sit there and like bring up a program to like take some stuff out or overcompensate for something. So I agree with you 100%, Schubert. The source is key.
Yeah. Yeah. And you want things to be able to sound like what they are. It's like, oh, that sounds like a tom. Like toms are one of the hardest things in the world to record. To just make them sound like a tom. Like not even like the craziest tom or exactly like Ringo or something like that, but just to have it not just sound like flubby mess. Even if it's a good drummer, toms are just a beast to tune and to just mic everything.
Yeah. And this is funny that you say that, because when I got that drum set, it came with a Tama setup video that had like Kenny Aronoff
cool.
and Mike Portnoy and all these guys on there. And it was funny because living out in LA, Kenny will sometimes play at the Baked Potato.
Yes, of course.
Which is a great jazz
Baked
club
Potato's
out here.
Awesome. Yes.
Fusion, I would say, more than jazz. It's a lot of rock and great music. So if anybody hasn't checked it out, please check it out. But it was funny because I told him when I saw him, the first time I saw him play there, I was like, Kenny, I'm like, man, you helped me set up my drum set when I was in 8th grade.
That's awesome.
And one of the things they did was, he sat there and they actually in real time would take the heads out of the box, put it on the drum set. And you'd have these drummers who had been in sessions for years playing, Kenny was with the Smashing Pumpkins at the time, just telling you how to tune stuff. And it was just super cool that Tama would do something like that. So as a drummer, like that was another thing that I looked into was, tuning the drums because, like we just talked about, man, if your drums aren't tuned well and I luckily, because I was listening to so much music and, heard all the good stuff as far as like I had good role models and whatever, right. I naturally kind of tuned my toms and intervals, which I had no idea. It just like, I just wanted like a boom, 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 boom. Like that to me was like, okay, I'll just do that. And, that's something that, later on, you learn, okay, maybe tune the drums to the key of the song, but, having pleasing intervals with your toms and not some weird interval where it all sounds, out of place. The tuning is super important. And I had like Tama made, it was, I actually have it in my closet. It was called a tuning watch, where it's just a little tension, or it's a tension watch. So you'd put it on there and tell you what tension the tom was. Okay. So you could take it around each lug, move the drum key, and it'd tell you, oh, your tom's at 65. And, you just use your ear after that because you want to make sure like each little tension rod is about the same pitch. Yeah. Maybe like the bottom heads. Yeah, exactly. And, maybe just preference. What's that?
Am I correct? Like opposite from each other, just in case somebody's not watching with the video. So like 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, you're kind of going side to side.
Exactly that. And you can go, a good thing to do is like go on Google, take a screenshot of your phone or something. And if you're a drummer, like, have a nice picture of that. I still do that as a drummer because I have a 10 lug snare drum that's from DW and I can never like, I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's
which one was?
So I'm just always, I have that open as a reference. So it's a great thing to have, but really super smart. Important. Yeah.
That's really smart. I like that. Yeah. I'm going to steal that.
Please do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Good stuff.
No, I don't know. There's something about the drum kit in particular that sticks out in terms of just pathways, I think. Ways that you think about gear, ways that you think about musicianship. And like, I almost feel like with guitar, my primary instrument, we have the opposite problem. Where you can go so rabbit hole into gear so quickly, so early on.
Pedals.
I know, which is awesome. I love pedals, but it's so addictive and it can be destructive rather than constructive to your musicality and just your ability to like, can you play this instrument acoustically or just plugged in clean? It's like some people are like, no, I play pedals, which is fine, but it's better to do both in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, you can get into, you can get into chasing sounds really easily. So it's just, it's just kind of self-discipline and having, I guess like having a North Star was always a good thing. Cool, like where do you want to go as a musician? And
there's no wrong answer.
There's no wrong thing. Just try to get there, and man, one of the great things is that we have so much stuff like that. Like I got into analog synths.
Yeah.
Not that long ago, I visited. Oh, dude, that's a huge rabbit hole. I was in Nashville, visited Moog out there.
Cool.
For anybody who doesn't know, it's definitely Moog. Don't pronounce it Moog.
Good.
It wasn't Bob Moog, it was Bob Moog. But Moog synths are awesome, and went down a whole delay pedal rabbit hole. But the cool thing is that, man, you have some cool effects on there. You don't need to play complicated stuff, and you can make some really interesting sounding things. So that's kind of a cool way to go as far as like just making some textures, but definitely making sure you can, play your instrument and everything is a key thing. But man, there's so much cool effects and stuff out there. Like I don't blame anybody for, wanting to like check out some stuff and get some pedals, and you can make some gnarly stuff and some really cool things. And man, that's the great thing about today. There's just so much cool stuff out there.
Totally.
You almost don't know where to start. So if places like, you have a good person at like a VK or somebody like that, you can definitely get a little more focused in that and kind of just think of what sound you're going for. And man, do you have like a favorite, like a go-to kind of pedal or two for guitars that you love?
Yeah, no, I have a few. So the one that I'm most excited about right now is the Game Changer Audio Sustain pedal. I think that's what it's called.
Oh, cool.
It's basically a sustain pedal like you would see on a piano.
Oh, okay.
And all it does is it's kind of like a freeze delay, but not exactly. So it allows you to hold out a note, but as you depress that pedal, you can still play stuff over the things that are being frozen. And I really like it because you can kind of toggle it in really weird ways, which I'm not sure, that might be a little off-label use kind of thing for it in terms of what it's trying to do. But you can do really cool like glitch effects with it. So I'm really excited about that just as I don't have anything in the computer, in the box, that can replicate that kind of expression pedal stuff. So I've been using that a lot, especially on like solos and more avant-garde kind of things. Yeah.
Nice. I just looked it up while we were talking because I hadn't seen it yet, and it does look awesome.
It's pretty rad.
Thank you. I'm gonna bookmark that thing. That's awesome.
No, for sure. Hey everybody, Scoobert Doobert here. I'm excited to announce my new record, I, as in the letter I. It is available on all streaming platforms now, as well as on Bandcamp with high-res .wave files. So usually you hear the compressed MP3s or things to the streaming services. These .wave files, they sound the best. They absolutely do. It is science. I'm actually going to be posting a blog article about why waves sound better than MP3s, and that leads me to my next topic. I started a blog, and we are pressing vinyl. So whoever is subscribed to the blog is going to get first dibs on the limited edition vinyls. We're talking like some super, super limited edition. I think they're only doing like 10 or 15 of the, top shelf stuff. And then there will be other really cool colorways as well. But the whole vinyl run is not that big because I'm not that big. Hopefully someday we'll be able to press more. But until then, you gotta jump on it now. So join the blog, join that mailing list. It's all free. And then you'll be able to get first dibs on that vinyl of I as it's being pressed. And on that blog, we're also going to be doing stuff for like show notes and other musical topics that require a little bit more visual component. So for example, I just did a pod not too long ago on musical notation throughout the history. It'd be kind of cool to see like what it actually looks like throughout history, right? And that's what the blog's here for. It'll hit your emails just like every Tuesday morning is kind of what we're looking at. And it'll just be a nice extra little way to love music more, expand the understanding from the podcast, and also hook you up with some exclusive perks like first dibs on vinyl records. So anyway, check out the new music. Hopefully subscribe to that Substack. You'll find the link in my show notes, or you could go to lovemusicmore.substack.com to sign up today, and we'll send you some emails. So enjoy the music and enjoy the rest of the episode. And I love the like different JHS the color box. It's really fun to mess with, kind of like into the board, but kind of sounds for guitars and vocals. And then I also really like Zivic's fuzzes.
Cool.
And because that's another thing that I came really close to being able to get a fuzz sound that sounds like a analog chip. Very, very close enough. If it's not like a full-on lead instrument, it's like a supportive lead instrument, and it's through a model of Benson amps. And I want to make sure that I think it's Wave Factory. Let me double check this online.
Okay.
Mix Wave, that's what it is. That's a different company called Waves Factory, which is also very good. Mix Wave. So they have this Benson Chimera collection. Great guitar amp simulation. One of the best. I'm actually considering selling my guitar amp because their sims are that good, and just putting my computer on stage, which it's kind of lame, but also kind of cool. And it's got a fuzz. It's got like a germanium fuzz in there that sounds like plugged into a germanium fuzz, which has been my elusive holy grail, hard to find computer. Can't
replicate it. Got to have the analog. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I can do that in a hotel room. Sign me up.
That's
I don't have
awesome.
to carry pedals in my backpack like I usually do. Not bad.
I will say, speaking from a drummer to a guitarist, the main advantage guitarists have, and I'm always super jealous, is you just bring your axe with you, plug in some headphones, and you could just go into the computer with something.
Oh yeah.
And I just love that, being able to be around your instrument all the time and play it has a super huge advantage. As a drummer, oh, we can get an electronic set, and maybe do some stuff, but I can't like take things to an apartment and play a drum set in there.
No.
They've come better ways, they've gotten like some mesh heads that can like deaden the volume a lot, but I've always been super jealous about that of just like, man, if I could like play the drum set for like, 12 hours a day, every day, that'd be awesome. So I will say if you're a guitarist, please take advantage of that. You can plug in some headphones and keep practicing. And like you said, now, you can get some amazing sounds. Yeah. Even if you have like an iPad or your phone by you or, a computer. So that Benson Germanium is a good example, that amp modeler, of like just how far things have come.
And this just came out like in the last year. I've played some of the other ones that are good, but I like playing clean tones, slightly overdriven tones. I don't really like the big old scooped line 6 kind of, just doesn't speak to me as much. This was the first time, and I've been using them. I grew up playing line 6, and that like I did this.
Oh, nice.
They had like this little, you remember the little pod things, those red things? They're like look like a bean. Did you ever see those? They're like old school, one of the first like guitar amp sims. Yeah. They made a version of that where you could plug it in with USB for the computer, and that's how I learned all my first guitar solos. Was playing into the computer, and would kind of like grade you, and you could play along and backing tracks and stuff.
What a cool idea. It reminds me of Guitar Hero, only like actually practical.
Actually practical. I know. I was so glad that, I don't know, I grew up at a time where I had access to those things. Crazy, super lucky. But even back then, I was like, this doesn't feel like playing in an amp. The feedback response is so different. It like having an amp, like you feel the strings like come alive, the sustain, all of these things. So I almost felt like I was doing myself a disservice if I played in the box too often, because I didn't really feel like I was playing the real instrument. Yeah. These amps make me not feel that anymore for the first time in 2024. I guess late 2023 was when I first played it, and it was like, there it is. They did it.
Wow. And that's awesome. Like, better late than never, obviously. Yeah. To get there is really cool. When you were doing that old line 6 thing, was there latency back then you had to worry about, or was it just kind of all okay?
There was some, but they like the buffer size and stuff was not crazy, and I think that's part of the reason why it sounds so much better now. Is I'm running it natively on an M1 Pro. That thing is flying, and dude. I mean, I'm certain that it's using a ton of processing that would have just nuked my computer if I used it back in whenever this was, 2011. Yeah.
I will tell you, like those new, like if people, call up asking about computers all the time. Dude, M1, I have an M2 Pro right now. I upgraded from a 2017 MacBook Pro I had. Nice. And, I had worked at Apple for like 12 years. So very like all about their stuff and very into everything Apple. And man, going to that M1 Pro, when I was on my 2017, I'd like open up Logic and just already the computer would be like, with the fans and everything. And I've been recording so much multi-track stuff using a ton of outboard gear, many tracks in a song. I haven't heard my fans come on once on like this laptop. So amazing. Shout out to to the Apple processors. Like, man, they're game changers. And I do voiceover stuff as well. And, one of the things is not having that little fan noise on when you're recording. So I've been doing all sorts of things to like be in my vocal booth. But, I couldn't have the computer near me. And now it's just nice to like, have something right there instead of having some kludgy workaround thing. And that's a huge thing. So, there's fans in them, but I never heard it come on. And I used to just have to do my iPad in there. But man, that's the other thing is that computers, like, I had a PC back in the day that like died on me after like 2 years. So I went all Apple after being in college and seeing all the friends do that. So, I mean, computers have just come such a long way too. Like it's just a great day to be recording music.
I love that. And I totally agree. And because it's so much simpler, and that I feel like computers are another example of like at the source. This is, I felt that I upgraded. I got a Apollo X6.
Oh, sweet.
That was a big upgrade for me from a twin.
You can still use that twin as a monitor controller, which is cool too.
And I'm still using the two DSP chips on there. Linked up through the USB-C on the back. So I'm stoked about that. But now I've got all of this processing power, and I have yet to hit the limit. And it's kind of cool. Okay, this is actually something I'd like to talk to you about.
Sure.
I actually think that there is benefit in scaling up over time in terms of the quality of your gear, even though obviously it's better to have good quality gear. But learning little things like having crappy laptops that will crash if you put too much processing on it gets you to like commit resources and freeze tracks and learn proper workflow that is still baked in. I still do that even though I have a ton of processing, but it's almost this mentality of like conserving resources, building on ideas, committing to them like you would have to if you were using tape or outboard gear, saying this is the thing, record, and then building on it, rather than what I see some people that are starting out right now with this abundance of processing power is they don't make any decisions.
Yeah. Decision paralysis.
Leave it. Yeah. Because you can, you don't have, like you had to make decisions and you're having to make less and less. And I actually think that hurts you. You just like almost an overabundance of resources can go the other way if you don't like develop the right habits.
I agree with that personally. I feel like you should definitely, work within your means, work with what you have. And there's some saying, I'm not going to say it eloquently, but there is something along the lines of be happy with what you have, not with like what you are, not trying to get the next thing all the time. So just be happy with what you have and learn how to use that stuff, like you were saying, to its fullest potential, which is hard to do now. Even if you have one piece of UA gear, you might have like, 20 plugins and you're like, damn. But really, if somebody's just starting out, if you're in high school or something like that, if you have a Mac with Logic on it, like open up Logic and use their stock plugins, which are awesome.
Totally.
Learn, about the different compressors and everything. But I totally agree. And the other nice thing about that is that you kind of learn what you like and you learn what you need. And then, when you're getting stuff, you're getting something that's a deficiency in your game or that you want to upgrade, rather than like, oh, my friend said to get this. And then, all of a sudden you're looking at getting 5 things and, then there's a whole financial side of it too. So it's like, you could definitely just, work with what you have, and you can do a lot of damage with a laptop and a couple plugins. So start with what you have, and just go from there. I completely agree. And even if you have like, let's say you just have FabFilter stuff. Yeah. Man, they have an EQ video. I watched a couple of them a couple of years ago, just when I was, just kind of trying to go back to basics almost. Cool. And man, there was just a half-hour video on how to use the EQ, and they were using an SSL board as like a great kind of, hey, here's like kind of what the Q is on this and everything. And they just got so granular into it. And it kind of reminded me like of that exact thing. I just kind of stopped using everything I had, and for a period of a good couple months, I was just like, let me just use the computer and some FabFilter plugins and see how my mixes translate. And I'll tell you, everything got a lot clearer because I was also using EQ and everything is more of a subtractive sort of thing than like additive. So really trying to work on carving out mixes. I just did this today where there was a bass and a kind of weighty piano that, were kind of fighting with each other. And right in there, you can see in real time where their frequencies are. So they have this nice thing that shows you where they clash and you can visually see it, and just took the keyboards down a little bit. Then all of a sudden things became clearer. So really, if you just want to give yourself a cool exercise, like open up an EQ and a mix and sculpt for a little bit. Man, there's so many cool things you could do with just a couple things and learning those. So 100% love it.
I totally agree. And like what you're saying, you end up identifying gaps, and you end up identifying like, I have a problem. This is the answer that I usually solve this problem, and it's not working anymore.
Yeah.
Or you get to the end of it and you go, okay, I'm starting to make a little bit of money on music. Hopefully, for everybody. What are the things that could take me to that next level? That's where the things like Soothe and Goldfoss, like these, expensive, fancy EQ, resonance filtering, all this kind of stuff. You don't really need that. You don't need but it's really nice to have. I use it. I mean, like the example that you just gave, there's a plugin called Track Spacer that can be horribly abused. And I've seen it horribly abused and heard it horribly abused. But basically what it is it's a...
A widener?
No. It's a you bus one sound that's fighting with another sound into it, and then it's basically like a multi-band compressor of the other sound. So
nice.
I don't use it a ton, but like when I will be like if I get a mix with a very dense arrangement, like really a lot going on. There's an artist named Garvey that I work with a lot. If anybody wants to check out that music, cool. Sometimes the vocal, no matter what I do, there's just so much going on. The vocal just won't pop. And so finding the elements that are fighting with the vocal, of which there will usually be many, busting them into an area and then putting that track spacer on all of those fighting elements saves me like 20 hours of work.
Oh, dude, it kind of sounds like it's using everything else as almost like a side chain.
Yeah, exactly.
And the vocals are kind of like, hey, okay, anything, when the vocals are coming on, kind of make space for the vocals that are coming through.
As it's happening, you can set attack and release from it. You can also set like high and low pass filtering. But it's a dangerous thing. It's so powerful that you can totally ruin a mix if you don't know what you're doing. And so it's a lot better to do the 20 hours version before you turn it into the 20 minutes version. Even though it sucks, it's a lot better to like learn what you want it to be doing, so you can assess like, is it doing the thing that I ultimately, if I invested all of that time, would have the same result. So you know where you're going to, the solution that you're trying to find, and then you're finding a tool that helps you get there faster.
Yeah. And that's another good point too, is that man, dedicate some time just to learn some stuff, because we can all be rushing, and myself, I really have a couple, maybe like an hour or 2 hours at night where I can really sit down and get into things. And it can be such a thing of like, I don't know how to use this, but let's just look at it for 5 minutes, and this will be, I'll just do it. And we just want to be able to like learn stuff really quickly and just use it, and it's like, okay, it looks like this, so it's just I can. But if you do sit there and just take a little bit of time, I'm maybe in the minority of reading manuals and stuff like that.
It's especially like Universal Audio. We were just talking about them. Their manuals are top notch. They explain to me how tape works. Like I know how to work a tape machine because I've read their manual, and it's really good. It's not that hard. It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah. Man, and shout out to I used to work at Apogee, and cool. We had a guy, Roger, there that did all the manuals, and his manuals were just amazing. And it's very cool because, and this is actually, they have these for like all their plugins and everything. I mean, you can sit there, you could not know anything about this plugin, and then by the time you'll have read this manual, which are not very long, you'll know everything there is about it and tips from the engineers and stuff. So people who write manuals, we do love you. We do read them.
We do.
And by the time, you go through and use those, and you read the manual and you go through and revisit the plugin again, like you said, it takes more time. You had to spend the time to learn it and everything, but man, you can just do so much more, and you can be more effective as a mixer. So there are some things where you should definitely spend some time on. There are some things that's like, okay, well, you can skirt some stuff, but learning how to use your stuff is huge.
And it's great to just like try stuff too. It's great. It's great to do both. Like it's like, I got this tape machine. What happens if I turn it up all the way and like blow it up? It's like, oh, that's pretty weird. Like maybe I'll use that someday, but like I've done it. So now I know what that sounds like. So if I need to reach into my bag of tricks and have an overblown tape machine, I have, now I've done the thing that we were talking about. I have purchased virtual tape machines over time because I've grown out of them, or I found that this one introduces frequencies that I don't like. But now I've got a bag of like probably 10 or 12 different tape emulations, and I know them intimately well because I had to save up to buy each of them.
Nice. Yeah. And there you go. Yep.
They're good for different situations. That's what people end up paying me for, is like, I've got years and years of experience of all these stupid virtual tape machines. Like I know which one to put your stuff into, but that's through that labor of love. Is like, it's not quite doing what I want it to. Let me go back to the manual, figure that out. Okay, no, I need to buy something else. I buy something else, digest that, process.
I mean, that's why there's multiple brands out there, because otherwise we'd all just be buying one EQ and one compressor, and we'd all sound the same. But there's just, it's very cool finding out those little mojo sort of things, like what works great for what. Like when I heard API stuff on drums, it was just like, oh my god, like that's a great, like that's my rock sound that I've been listening. That's the Aerosmith thing that I've been listening to.
It is
all that sort of thing. And you said something that was really cool. just about experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I really want to, just people who are starting out and whatever, definitely just experiment. Don't let somebody tell you that something is really wrong. Now, if you're clipping your DAW by like 12 dB, that may not sound the best. So maybe back that off. But other than that, experimentation is awesome. And there's been so much cool stuff out of experimentation. So break the rules. Don't let people tell you what to do. And there's a lot of times where something could be wrong, but then somebody wins a Grammy for something, then all of a sudden it's right, or it's made it on an album or whatever. So that's the other thing is experiment with your stuff, push things to the limit. And that's where some really cool things come from. And I get very excited doing that, where, I'm like, oh, let me just try to push this thing to the limit. I've been doing like a lot of like Rupert Neve design stuff.
Cool.
And I've been demoing their 5060 centerpiece for a bit. And, it's all about pushing that thing to the limit. So you get a bunch of glue on your mix. Everything sounds really gelled, but your DAW isn't clipping like it normally would be. So,
sorry to interrupt this very important broadcast, but it's time for one more advertisement for myself for this podcast. What I'm asking for is for you to rate it 5 stars, share it with your friends. This is like the most important thing for this podcast to grow. So if you want to do this, you go onto the podcast screen, right? You click on the ... on Spotify. Under there, it says rate show, and you go and you click it 5 stars. If you could do that for me, that's the best way for the algorithms and all that stuff to share it out with the world. I know that it's a lot to ask, but if you could please just hit those 3 dots and then a 5 star, it would really help us out and helps us, get the word out and spread the love of music. So thank you. If you're listening on YouTube, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. And here's the rest of the episode.
Just experiment and do wacky things. And like you said, maybe you get some sound that's kind of weird, but maybe you save it and then you're working on a project later and it calls for that. And then, like you said, you have a little bag of tricks with a preset or whatever it is, or a recall sheet. And man, that's all just cool stuff. And it makes us all unique. And, we all have our different things we like. And I mean, that's a cool thing that's why I listen to so many things. And it's just because everybody does stuff differently. And if you know how to manipulate everything, you can do something totally different than the other person and you'll still get something that sounds amazing.
Agreed. And get people throughout the process, all the people that you're collaborating with, who are on the same tip. Like a good example with what you're saying about clipping the DAW. I don't like that either. I don't like the way that sounds. Most people don't. It sounds very brutal. That's the classic digital distortion, just slammed against the wall sound for the listeners. You've probably heard meme videos if you're on TikTok and Instagram that blow out your ears, that kind of sound. But I had one friend, his name's Robel, and he made a tune that just did that. And because the mix engineer and the mastering engineer, my same mastering engineer that I use, Riley Knapp, were like, okay, let's do it. Like, let's go hard. It's clipping. Like, whatever. What can we do with it?
And does it sound good? Like, if it
kind of did at the end.
If it sounds good, then okay.
I don't know if it sounds good, but it's cool. It sounds cool, but it's because everybody along the process was just like, okay, like, I'll take what you're going for and just push it a little bit further. I've been in other situations, especially as a younger musician, where people kind of just tell me no. Like, that's not the way that's done. Stay back in, make it sound clean, or you're too many S's on this vocal, or whatever, like go re-record it.
Yeah.
And finding people that are in your same headspace, in addition to the gear, I think is critical to being able to help those extreme decisions.
Yeah, I mean, having that was one of the best things about going to college at University of Miami, was having just that kind of stuff there, where you had friends that were in the same mindset, but you also had professors and famous musicians or whoever would come in and guest that had been in the industry and knew what was up. So you kind of had that nice stretch and barometer of things of like, well, we're thinking of this, and you had that great thing of experimentation and kind of knew where the limits were. And that is super important to have your role models, listen, do your favorite stuff, find out who mixed it or who produced it or whatever. Listen to their listen to interviews with them, see what they do, and use that as a nice barometer, and then have your friends or you're experimenting, like that's just a great, I mean, I think that's something that I never get out of. I'm always in that phase of like having, idols that I have and people that I love their stuff. Like, I think I was listening to some Andy Wallace videos who did like Jeff Buckley, Grace and all that sort of thing. And
yes,
I was like, man, I've listened to all of his stuff, but I've never really, and I don't think he does a lot of interviews, but I was on like, I think it was Mix with the Masters or Pure Mix or something like that, and just checking some stuff out. And, I'm always a learning person. I personally am just like, let me keep learning new stuff all the time. I don't really just sit back and I'm like, oh, I know all this. Let me just,
good.
And that's part of my thing too, like being in the pro audio industry. You kind of have to keep moving forward with stuff and know what's coming up. But I agree. It's just so cool to have, and there's so many resources. But surrounding yourself with friends that have that same vibe, that like maybe, they do something that, either challenges you or that you really love and you guys can collaborate on it. Like there's nothing better than that.
Agreed. On the forward thinking thing, I'd love to talk a little bit about Dolby Atmos and immersive audio, kind of what you're seeing in the market. Do you think that everybody's coalescing on Atmos, or do you think that some of these other, I'm hearing like Sennheiser's got kind of their own thing, and or Sony does too, or do you think
Sony does too?
Dolby's gonna kind of capture it? Where do you think all of this stands? I'm just curious.
Well, you have people that there's not 100% agreement on Atmos. I'm personally all for it. I know there's tons of mixers doing it right now, and I think it is something that it's not like 5.1. Where I think the big thing with Atmos is all the support it has. Like from a consumer standpoint, you go into like Best Buy, you see something that says Atmos. So you go onto Apple Music, you see Atmos. Consumers who aren't into pro audio know what Atmos is. They're like, oh yeah, I go listen to that at the movie theater. That's a big thing, is that it has the consumer push. And with using Apple as an example, if you have AirPod Pros or AirPod Maxes, you're exposed to Atmos, and you can listen to Atmos as a listener, which is huge because as a kid growing up in high school, I didn't have the money to go out and buy an AV receiver with 5.1, get a sub and 5 speakers and wire all the crap. Like that just wasn't, I didn't have the means to it. And, with Atmos, you can kind of go anywhere. You can do it on those AirPods or AirPod Maxes, other headphones. You can do, Sony's thing, of course. And then, you can, of course, have a room with it. And I think the biggest thing too is that, Dolby, what I love about their stuff, what they did with the renderer is that you can have any number of speakers. You could have 714, or you could be in a movie theater with like 64 speakers. And the renderer just uses the computer to know exactly, it has objects, which are basically, let's say you're at a movie theater and there's a piece of dialogue, maybe there's a whisper that's supposed to kind of come near your right ear so you can hear it a little bit better, or just be an effect in the mix. The renderer will be able to play that pretty exactly, whether you're on 12 speakers or 64 or headphones. So the way that it does that is just very future-proof, and I think it's exciting. There's many companies that have really gotten behind it. And I mean, I will tell you, when I was at Apogee listening to, we had the great fortune of working with Bob Clearmountain, who's still there and doing awesome stuff, and doing his mixes. And I just remember going over to his place and hearing his Atmos mixes. And the cool thing about it was not that, you're not trying to make things kind of swoosh around like you would in a movie theater, where you can, because maybe there's a helicopter circling or something like that. But Atmos, he played like some live Bob Marley, and it just felt like I was at the concert. And that's the big thing with Atmos, is you just feel immersed in the music, and it's just a whole different feeling than stereo. So, a good example is, when you're mixing, you might pan stuff. So as a person listening, it doesn't all sound like, just muddled everything coming from one spot. Your brain can pick stuff out better if it's panned in different places. To me, Atmos also lets you just localize things a lot better, because there's so many different places things can come from. So forward-thinking technology, I think Atmos is definitely here to stay through the long term. I don't think it's a fad. And, there's plenty of people out there right now. I know, you submit a Atmos mix to Apple Music, you're going to get priority, on Apple Music. So there's incentives right now. There's a lot of people who, just want to say, hey, this is the new thing in music, and it's super forward thinking, and I want to do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, man, I don't know of a technology. I'm trying to think of one that's been such a huge advance in like the sonics of music and movies. I think the last time like maybe Dolby Digital came out or something like that, but I just think it's going to be a huge thing for the industry. And VK, we do have an Atmos room in our LA showroom that people can come in and actually hear and experience Atmos.
Yes.
So that is a really cool thing.
Yes.
And again, just for people being able to, in any sort of budget, be able to experience Atmos, and with the support that it has, I just see it as something that, it's getting to be very known right now. And I think we're just going to, find out more about it, and consumers will be, subjected to it much, much more throughout the years. And as far as which format, I don't know. I don't know if they're all going to conglomerate, or if Sony's going to stick with their thing, Dolby's going to have their thing. Who knows? I have no idea how that's going to go. I'm just stoked that there are people willing to try different things. And it is kind of the Wild West. There's no A to Z, like here's exactly how you have to do an Atmos mix.
No.
People have different approaches. And again, they'll get great sounding stuff, even though two people maybe took exact opposite approaches. So it's also a really cool creative format. Again, if you have Logic on your computer, the render is built right in there. So, find a mix online, import it into Logic.
Just added it to Pro Tools. That's in the most recent update.
Yeah, it's baked into Pro Tools too. I forgot about that. Yeah. So, either of those platforms, you have the renderer built in, bring in a mix and just, put on some headphones and try a binaural mix in there. And, you can of course make your own objects and kind of have them pan how you want. But yeah, it's super awesome. And going to the movie theater, I mean, I've always been a movie theater type person. And I mean, I remember hearing like, I think Ghostbusters, the newest one, was one that I saw in Atmos, was just like, man, like this is awesome. So
cool. I
love it. Yeah.
That's great. That's the pep talk I need. I got Atmos certified, and I haven't been doing a ton of Atmos mixes. So I need to do more of that. And well, and there's a really cool, you can go to like Dolby's website. There's a document they have called the Dolby Dart. It's DARDT. Okay.
And if you have some speakers and whatnot, it's pretty cool. You can fill out what you have, the dimensions of your room, and you can get your room certified for Atmos. So they'll actually tell you like, okay, your SPL is fine. You set kind of like your listening distance from, your main speakers. Like I said, you put your room dimensions in there. They have all the speakers kind of like as drop downs. So you can put exactly what you have, what SPL you want to listen to.
Cool.
And it'll say, okay, you're all green here. It'll give you a little red. It's an Excel spreadsheet. So it'll give you a little red cell and be like, hey, you might need 2 subwoofers. And so if anybody is trying to do all that stuff, we can definitely help out with that. But that's kind of the cool thing, is you can kind of see how close you are to like a Dolby certified studio. And you can either go all the way, or, if you're just kind of checking things out, doing things for fun, you're just like, okay, well, I'm just going to stick with what I have and maybe do some room treatment or get another speaker later or whatever. But there's a lot of great resources out there now too. So I love it. I think it's, an awesome format, and I've heard the correct people mixing in it to know that it will work and it's a valid technology.
I love that. I love that. I would love to talk a little bit more about that Vintage King LA showroom, and kind of just introduce people to the space and invite them over.
Sure. I mean, I will tell you, I started there as a customer because I was getting into voiceover, wanted to do some audiobooks, and I wanted to get a microphone.
Okay.
But I wanted to hear the microphone that I was going to get. And I was, and I'm in LA now. I'm not in my little 1,500 town or 1,500 person town in Illinois. So I was like, where can I go and hear a microphone? And I Googled, this is like 2015, Vintage King came up, and man, there was just, they had a vocal booth with like 12 different tube mics and, some other stuff as well. And it was so cool. I went in there and they helped me record stuff. They were able to put it, record everything, gave me the files on SoundCloud. And I went back and listened, to see like what worked with my voice, because I couldn't critically just sit there and go through 12 mics. So
totally.
It was so cool. And, fast forward to me actually working there now, same thing in LA. Like it is the best showroom maybe in the world. I will be bold and say that, especially in Los Angeles. Yeah. We've got racks of outboard gear. We have the same mic booth with a bunch of awesome mics in there that's tied to an API 2448, or there's outboard gear we can patch into, but we can do the same thing. Bring in your vocalist, have them record over a track. We'll SoundCloud it to you, or use WeTransfer or whatever. But we're out by the airport, by the Burbank Airport. So cool. 2636 Ontario Street is the address, and
right near SI. What's the center staging?
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, there's a bunch of awesome stuff out there. Yeah. Like there's some really cool shops out there. Man, Perfect Circus down the street from us.
Yeah, Perfect Circus definitely is cool too. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, again, racks of outboard gear. We've got, some cool stuff, tons of pedals that you can kind of come and try. We've got some cool Teenage Engineering stuff. We've got 4 different consoles. We've got a Neve 5088, which is friggin' awesome. Yep. We've got the API 2448, an SSL Origin in there, and a Neve 8424. So if you've never gotten a chance to see these consoles, definitely come in and check them out. If you're in the mood for monitors, we've got a critical listening room with over, I think, 15 different pairs of monitors in there. Awesome. Everything from ATCs to Genelecs to Focal, so just tons of different stuff, tons of gear. It is definitely something people need to come and check out. And my favorite thing about it, these days you can watch a ton of videos, read things on the forums till you're so confused. The great thing is that almost everything in the store is fully demoable. So the thing that I love is that people will come in and be like, hey, I'm looking to grab, a mic or a monitor. I'm thinking of this. And we're like, cool, like, let's hear that. And then, maybe we'll suggest a couple other things. I want to say 60% of the time people come in and they're, on the thing that they're thinking they want. And they're like, okay, this sounds good. And then we might recommend something else. And all of a sudden it's just like, oh man, like, that's the sound that I was looking for. Yeah. Like that's what I want. Yeah. And then, it'll change to something that we had there that somebody didn't know about, that they actually heard, that they got to experience, and that, connected with them. And that they're like, hey, that's my sound, or that's what I want to hear from my music with monitors, let's say. So that's the cool thing about it, is that you can save all that time. Just come into the showroom with people who, love the gear, and we're not there to, upsell people and whatever. We just want to give, like, whatever you're looking for. We want to be the people to give you that creative solution. Yeah. And we're local in LA. We do work with people around the nation and around the world. So, we have techs that'll build out studios. We will go from anywhere from somebody buying their first audio interface, buying their first microphone, to fully, setting up and kitting out Dolby Atmos setups and speccing everything from the ground up, and contracting and having our techs go out and actually do all the wiring setup. So we are a fully functional pro audio store, and it is definitely something that people need to check out. I'm there every day, Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, basically. Our showroom's Monday through Saturday, 10 to 6. So we got plenty of hours. People can come in and book stuff. And again, like, just to be able to get ears on, I think is the most important thing, so definitely come check out Vintage King LA.
And it's such a cool thing. And I don't know if everybody realizes this, but when you play music, when you play an instrument, when you record stuff, you're supporting an industry of people that absolutely love music products and bringing that to you. Like, we're talking about the people that are writing manuals, the people that have showrooms, all of these. There's nobody that's just doing this just to clock in or punch a card. Like, everyone's in it to help you succeed as a musician, and they love it, and they love hearing you succeed. They love hearing you find that sound. So that's just such a special thing. I mean, from the local music store that you were talking about, buying your first drum kit, like, there's so much
huge.
passion.
And that's, that is something I've never forgotten any of that stuff. My dad buying the drum set, or my salesperson at Gazzardo's, like, that is just ingrained in me. It was a life experience.
Yes.
It opened the door for me being a musician, which is huge. So, I mean, it's just, like you said, that's one of my favorite calls, of somebody who's like, hey, I want to do this. Like, it's been my dream for, since how long?
Yeah.
I'm ready to make it a reality. And that's what we love to do, is just make somebody's dream a reality, or, give them the sonic, if they want something super, specifically in sonics, and they're like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. We want to be able to match that and, have the sound, have them hear the sound that they're hearing in their head, actually hear it through the monitors or their equipment. So that's super huge. And I will tell you, it is a passionate team. We love what we do. So very true. No truer words have been said. There's anybody who's there is, we love gear, we love people, and we love to help people out. So it's an awesome thing. And to be able to come in and get hands-on with stuff in the showroom, and I mean, you're just kind of taken aback the first time you walk in, because it's just kind of overwhelming, honestly, first time you go in. But it's super awesome. If anybody's into music, it's definitely a place you have to check out in LA.
Great. Can't wait to come by. And one last question that I'd love to hit you with before we go. So this show is called Love Music More. This little mini segment is Love Music Why. And it's just an opportunity for you to just opine a little bit about why do you keep coming back to music? Why does that thing, this playing music, spark so much joy in your life from, age 10 or whatever, getting your first drum kit, all the way up to now, just seeing the excitement in your eyes? What is it about music? Why do you love this thing?
It's just something that I've been, into it since my parents were playing Michael Jackson, really when I was a really young age, and got into rhythm and everything. And I don't know, it's just something that it's intangible. It's something that spoke to me as a creative person, as an artist, wanting to be able to express myself in different ways, whether it's through words or music or whatnot. Seeing concerts was just friggin' awesome. Like, that was one of my favorite things, to see in live shows. So I would say just, that intangible thing that happens, it's cathartic. It's almost like an experience, it's like a go to another world. Like, when I first listened to Tool and put on Lateralis, that was like a CD my brother had that I put in the car when we were going to a Cubs game. I was just in my own world for like 90 minutes. And it just took me, it's like playing a great video game or watching a great movie. You're just taken to another place, or, it's something that matches your emotions, or something that, lets you be cathartic. Like with a drum set, I was able to get out aggression without getting into, doing anything that would, be considered something that was like bad behavior or whatever. I had an out, when I had things that were like going wrong, or that I had a bad day or whatever. So cathartic, artistic expression, just all that, and just being able to see talent and hear talent. And I don't know, I get excited about everything about it. And nowadays, the creativity that you have to express yourself and get out ideas and do it quickly, just all of that excites me. So I'm a very creative person, and I love, being around anything like that. So that would be my main answer, I think. I will also add, for anybody who's still listening, the Vintage King, we do have a location in Nashville too, so I don't want to leave my Nashville peeps out either.
Yeah, right.
Detroit is our headquarters, so VK is not just in LA, but that's what I would say about music, though. Friggin' love it.
I love it.
Awesome.
That was a great answer. Thank you so much for chatting, Matt. I really do appreciate you taking the time. I hope everyone enjoyed it.
You got it, Scoobert. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Peace.